All right, well, we'll wait for just a few more seconds here. All right, welcome everybody to the first ever Wolfi community meeting. Today is November 2nd, 2022. Keep in mind that this call is recorded, so anything that you say may be used against you. Thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, so I think it's probably good form to maybe do a little bit of introductions, especially for the folks not from ChainGuard. I can start. I'm Josh. I'm at ChainGuard.
I'm Ariadne, and I'm also at ChainGuard, obviously.
My name is Adolfo or Puerco, and I'm also at ChainGuard.
I'm Jason
James
at
Rawlings.
ChainGuard. James at ChainGuard.
Yeah, same.
I'm Dan Luring at ChainGuard.
I'm Carlos. I'm independent and at ChainGuard as well.
And I'm Adrian, also from ChainGuard.
Hi, I'm Nielsen. I'm not from ChainGuard. I work at CETA, and I want to use Wolfi eventually.
I'm John Speed. I'm a researcher at ChainGuard.
Yeah, I'm Eddie. I do DevRel and open source at ChainGuard.
Corcoran, I think you're muted, or we can't hear you.
I am Corcoran. I'm also not at ChainGuard. I'm a principal engineer at Reply. I was also previously at Slalom for 5 years.
And since I was talking, I'm Patrick, also from ChainGuard.
And Jesse, you just joined, but would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jesse Butler. I think I turned my camera on. Yeah, hi. Some of you know me, some of you don't. Nice to meet those of you who I don't know. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for hosting. Oh, I'm a technologist in ECR at AWS, by the way.
Hi, Jesse. We were talking last week.
Okay. Josh, do you want to move on past introductions, or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the things we had written here, which I forgot to mention, is there anyone, especially outside of ChainGuard, and we'll stop saying that hopefully soon, that has any interesting use cases or thoughts for using Wolfi in their own products or for different purposes? Here at ChainGuard, we're using them to power our images product. Go for it, Jesse.
Are we doing hand raising?
Hey,
I raised my hand. Now it's that. Hey, yeah. So we're really interested in images and ChainGuard images, and just sort of promoting this as a good idea. A lot of us internally at AWS, and going back years, have been talking about sort of revisiting what it means to be an image and how to build them and what a distro should look like backing them. So I'm really excited about it. So just from that perspective, just kind of engaging to see how we can help. Use case wise, we're also looking at Lima. Like, we're really interested in Lima, and we were talking about, what would it look like to build a kernel and get some and slap a wolf, a new sort of minimal, lower attack surface, less moving parts Lima solution. So that's another thing, but kind of interested in.
Yeah, Wolfi should be a good fit for that, as well as just a traditional container use case. So definitely we should try to figure out like a working group or something like that to facilitate those sorts of quasi embedded Linux use cases. Definitely, I'll open up an issue on our new community repo so that we can kind of start mapping out what that would look like, but definitely something that we're interested in as well.
Anyone else want to share any ideas they had for using Wolfi?
Yeah, I wonder if I could use as well an image that we have been building lately. So that's one of the scenarios that I foresee us trying to leverage Wolfi.
What language runtimes are you like looking for to enable that for your application?
Well, I don't know exactly which one we're going to be using. I'll discuss the proof of concept with some developers, but we have both Java and .NET stuff, .NET Core stuff.
We're already working on both of those, so if you're interested in talking more about that, I think James Rawlings is on the call and can kind of elaborate what our current JDK plans are. .NET, I am working on it, but it's going to be soon, hopefully. So
yeah, I'm interested, definitely.
Just on the Java bits, yeah, it's got something. We're just doing some testing at the moment. Java 17. Probably by the end of this week, we'll have a couple more, maybe Java 11 as well potentially. But certainly be love to hear kind of some use cases, some kind of sample applications, or anything you might have to get some feedback. So maybe we can love to reach out and maybe come up with some scenarios and things.
Yeah, so far I know that the developers that have been working with Java are using Java 11. We've been using OpenJDK at the moment, running Alpine. So sorry, using the Alpine versions for running the .NET stuff. That's the Alpine that we grabbed from the Microsoft, whatever ACR containerization that they have. So I don't know. I'll try to have some developer working with me to decide if we can make a proof of concept in either one of them.
Sounds awesome.
Anyone else before we move on to package stuff? All right. Okay. Graal VM. Is this doc editable, or Jesse, are you able to maybe miss the link?
I don't think I have a doc.
I'm going to throw it in the chat again. Let us know if you can't get in there. Yeah, so I put a link to the open PRs, so we have a few things that are in progress. But there are a few ones planned, and a lot of this is based on just customer requests through ChainGuard, but we'd love to hear if there's any packages, such as the one Jesse shared. How do you pronounce that? Graal?
Graal, yep.
Graal. So yeah, I think we should come up with a good way for people to suggest packages that they want done. And I guess, does anybody have any questions on the process for how you would go about adding a package into Wolfi? And maybe we can clarify that. But we're trying to, go ahead, Adolfo.
So one thing I would really like to see happening is some of the discussions about the packages being done out in the open. It's really tempting and easy for us internally to just like sync on whatever we're building or whatever, but we need to make sure internally that all of the conversations about the packaging efforts are being dumped in a publicly accessible issue, hopefully. And the other one is, I think we should do this like issue driven so that people can know if others are working on the same thing. That's all. Those are my thoughts about that.
Yeah, I agree on that. We did an exercise internally at ChainGuard a few weeks ago where we sat down and went through how to create a package, and I think that was immensely useful to me. And I think we should do another one of those, maybe as many as we need to before it starts to catch on externally, either in this meeting in a future week or a one-off time that we schedule or whatever. But I would as saying this, I am volunteering to drive that, lead that, do that sometime in the future, potentially against my better judgment. But yeah, I think that's super important for the sort of health and well-being of the project going forward. Is we should do as much as we can publicly, externally, and that's part of what this meeting is for, is to start moving that muscle and getting that moving.
Yeah. So currently, this meeting is an hour long. We'll see if that ends up being long, but we potentially have time for that today, or if we want to put something on the calendar for next week's meeting. Are we doing this weekly or bi-weekly, or are we trying to determine that?
I would say that we should try to determine it. My current thought was like either bi-weekly or possibly just monthly at first. I mean, as the project grows and expands and we have users and other people at other companies doing cool things with it and all of that, then we can always schedule more frequent meetings down the road. Like, just because we're doing meetings at a specific cadence right now doesn't mean that it has to be at the same cadence forever. Like,
okay. Yeah, Tracy mentioned we have it right now. It's scheduled for bi-weekly, so but yeah, I think we'll just kind of see how this thing goes. But definitely, like, to Adolfo and Jason, like, we should definitely share what we've learned internally and figure out a way to onboard other people to add their own packages, and also a process for what is a new package, if that's like a GitHub template or something like that. I think we need to go there. Okay, I can move on to the topics we have here, and then also people feel free. Like I said, we have another 45 minutes here, so if there's anything specific anyone wants to talk about, you can just tack it on to the end. So making these meetings easier to find and join. Yeah, so does anybody have ideas or like models that they've had in other open source communities that they think are working well that we should model around?
Just a quick note on that. I'm kind of taking notes on whatever community new processes, policies, documents, whatever we need to draft. So feel free to, if I miss something, or if you feel something is important to be captured on that front, let me know.
Sometimes this is as simple as just picking a time and a cadence and a fixed meeting link and just putting it into your repo. You know, just like at the bottom of your README, like, hey, if you're interested, jump on in, and that's a good way to start at least.
I have that one going.
Cool. Yeah, the concern at the moment is, you know, making sure that, like, if you drop like a Google Meet link publicly, nothing really stops like a bunch of trolls from like joining it and, you know, ruining the meeting basically. So
I don't know.
what we'll
Have you experienced? I'm just curious. Have you experienced that? That would suck. I've never experienced that, but I don't doubt that it happens.
I have been in a few Zoom meetings where it was public and then like trolls came in and crashed it. So I think what we're going to wind up doing is having a link behind some other thing that allows us to kill that link if necessary, so that like if trolls do like attack the meeting, we can just turn the meeting link off for a few minutes and hope for the best. But we didn't have that in place yet for today, so that's definitely an action item that we're going to set up before the next time that we do a meeting.
Okay. I see somebody has slashed through no Slack. Does someone want to talk about that decision?
Yeah, we talked a bit about it. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, we talked a bit about it yesterday in preparation for this meeting, and I think everyone vehemently said no Slacks, please. And instead, we'll try to keep conversation to the GitHub discussion, GitHub issues, things in that place. If someone who was not involved in that discussion vehemently likes Slack enough to overcome our vehement hatred for it, maybe we can discuss more. But basically, I think having another Slack in my life might be detrimental. But yeah, we can also revisit this decision later if we decide that GitHub discussions or GitHub issues aren't working for us for whatever reason. We can revisit. That was more or less the summary of why we decided no Slacks. There is a discussions tab in the repo. Oh, it's already a link there, where you can go sort of ask questions, as Tracy has already done.
Okay, someone jog my memory. Was there a Slack room for APKO at one point?
There is
the one in Kubernetes.
There is one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm all for keeping things on GitHub, but yeah, I wouldn't want to have a whole new Slack instance. It's like, I think I'm pretty against that. But if there was a channel somewhere, I wouldn't be as opposed.
We can use the APKO channel for answering questions about this, and we can.
The moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think for next time, takeaways are if we decide we want to use Slack, point to that in the org page or on the repo, or maybe both, and maybe depending on how much we care about trolling, the link to the calendar. I know some OCI, for example, has the link, but they don't give out the passcode. And so it's kind of word of mouth for the passcode. You have to ask someone for that. Maybe that is enough. We haven't had issues with that. let's see, public discussion of new packages. I think we kind of talked about that, and someone wrote down Jason has been volunteered to host that. Is that something that you want to possibly do on this call today, or do you want to kind of set something up in the near term?
I haven't prepared anything, so if folks want to stick around and we try to stumble through it, I'm happy to do that, or I can prepare something more less stumbly next time. I'm happy to do either one though, or both, or anything.
This is like when you go to the meetup and the person comes and they're like, "Yeah, they didn't make their plane, so could you just jump in?" I love that.
Could you just speak extemporaneously for 45 minutes?
Yeah,
We
and
can
live
take the
code.
next
And
10
live
minutes.
code.
If you can prepare it in 10 minutes, I can go through the other things, but no pressure. I just feel like we'll end early if we don't have something else going on. Or maybe if someone just wants to walk through the repo layout, maybe that would be helpful. I don't think we need to do a full build.
Yeah, I think that's useful. I can do that with whatever time we have left.
Okay.
That's useful.
Okay. Okay, so the governance model, who has some context on that? Adolfo?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So the idea with the governance model is we, as a company, want to see Wolfi succeed as a true open source project, not I don't know what the term for those would be, like not the it's my thing, but I claim it to be open source. We really want this project to thrive out in the open. So we are planning on setting up a steering committee, which eventually will welcome people from all of the user community. And so the idea is to quickly bootstrap a steering committee, mainly staffed by some of us inside of ChainGuard, but like establish some milestones and where we can like open it up for outside people. To do that, we need to set in place a couple of things because this community is starting from zero. And some of those things include like drafting the governance model, establishing a code of conduct, deciding whether we want to add things like agreements on, I forgot the term, about contributor licensing, the one that's to the DCO thing. And so we need to establish all of those, and then we need to also come up with some kind of elections or whatever. So we need to bootstrap all of that, and then our plan is to open up the steering committee to outside people. So this ties to my next item in the agenda, which was how do we work on that. So I created the community repo, and I was thinking, well, maybe I should like open PRs for things and let people comment on those and then merge them, or on issues. I am more biased towards action, so I think opening the documents, the initial drafts, merging them quickly and iterating over them is better. But I wanted to hear what others think about how to reach the cadence on iteration that we want. Like, I don't want to be stuck discussing things in issues for months and months. So I would rather have a rapidly evolving charters and policies that we can like quickly grow organically, and then get them to a point where we can sort of freeze them and then let the slow commenting and debating happen. But so, well, that's my thoughts currently.
Yeah, just to reinforce this point, like not having clear governance in Alpine for years was a huge mistake that we are trying desperately to avoid here. So if anybody has opinions, like, please help us build governance structures that are good for the community in general, like to ensure that especially everything is equitable. And Chainguard initiated the project, but we recognize that what we're trying to do with Wolfi is bigger than Chainguard, and so we are trying to run it in such a way that we are cognizant of that. So
I think one of the things
Yeah.
that we want to be really careful in controlling is splitting discussions and the community into working groups or subtasks when it's too early. At some point it's useful, but I've seen a couple of projects recently like breaking down unnecessarily into working groups, which slow that progress. So I would suggest trying to keep things a little bit tighter, and then once the community grows a little bit, then we can think about splitting into sub organizations. Okay, so that's my idea on that.
Corcoran, do you want to explain what you put in the chat there? I think that actually sounds great.
Oh, I'm actually unmuted as well. Sorry. Yeah, just for the number of things that you've got going on, because then it's like, as Adolfo says, you don't want many working groups and then many groups and many things happening. So if you want to kind of draw people into Wolfi like about now, which is the time to strike, then use this meeting to have like someone brings something definite. Yeah, you see, everyone knows. Wow, look at my shirt. Bring like something jazzy for the first like 30 minutes and record that. That becomes the thing that you then dump on LinkedIn and other social stuff, and then use the second half, the last half an hour, to kind of drive grown-up discussions, which I don't necessarily need to be a part of, because that then kind of gives you like a draw for the community, and then as people might think about tailing off, but actually then they're more likely to hang around to do like the second down to business part as well. So it just helps you have fewer meetings, a bit more engagement, and just kind of cheat codes that whole like how to grow social and drink during PT time as well, which is bad for me and Jason. I mean, it's good for me and Jason, but it's bad for everyone else.
So in other words, you would like to see a pop-up on how to package for Wolfi at the next meeting, something along those lines.
Yeah, like lead with that. Get a useful idiot to ask fun questions. I'm not volunteering for that. And then record that section, and then use that to drive like, this is what we do at our community calls, and then that gets you faster.
Yeah. I think as important as governance and these types of things are, like, I would think most people coming in don't want to sit and talk about it for an hour.
Well,
so I think it's.
I recognize that, but the first one is always gonna be dry and boring and all of that. But the next one will be more fun. I guarantee it.
We're only halfway through, so we could have just reversed the order, but I think that's a great idea. So we should consider that. All right, but Adolfo, to your point before, I think that all sounds great. I think we can just start with something. I think we can take inspiration from other projects in Kubernetes land, and just start small and go from there. I don't think we need too much off the bat, but okay. Let's see. Future topics. Okay, more packages. We talked about that. Update automation. Does somebody have any words to say about update automation?
I mostly just kind of added these off the top of my head of things we could go into more detail about if folks wanted to learn more about them, either very briefly now or future topics for things like, I like the idea of having like a main topic each week or each meeting. These could be future main topics if someone wants to pick them up. But if anybody is interested in any of these things, let us know and we can go into more detail.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on update automation, but I don't think we're ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there will be a webinar on the 16th, and I'm sure that that link will be blasted all over everyone's social feeds. So don't miss that. Who will be involved in that? Do we know?
Hi, so I believe Erica ID will be doing that. Erica, I see you on there. So
She thinks. Okay. Well, I haven't been asked. So awesome. So yeah, follow Erica's stuff and you will probably find that link. All right, so now we just have a area for open discussion. Jason, I don't know if you wanted to walk through anything at the end. Is there anything anyone had on their mind, or why you joined this call, or questions about Wolfi? There's kind of a lot going on there before we do some screen share action.
Did you guys say that you have a wiki somewhere? Or you said you want to do? I'm not sure.
Well, I think we should have one in GitHub eventually. We do have a ChainGuard page. Maybe if someone can help me with that link, but we have something called ChainGuard Academy that talks to all the open source efforts we're involved in, but I don't think we have anything in the repo. If you go to github.com/wolfi-dev, we've put a lot of effort into the kind of the landing page in the GitHub org, and that's probably the best, most concise thing you can find. We also, there's blog posts out, but they kind of have a more marketing spin. If you go to the GitHub page, I think that's probably your best bet.
So
and
like
then, yeah, ChainGuard Academy.
Talking like a person that will not know how to do it, I would, to help me out, for example, you're saying, what would you be able to do to help me out? Like I said, I have a .NET application, for instance, a Docker file that runs with, sorry, a container that I pull from Microsoft and do all my fun stuff to create that image. Let's say I want to migrate to Wolfi. I think Ariadne said that it's working right now on that .NET stuff, right? So, I mean, I don't want to bother you guys. So if you guys have some wiki guidance, this is how you would have an application, this is what you need to do with Wolfi, that would be, kind of a helpful stuff.
Yeah, I think we don't, to be honest, but we do have, if you go to the second link I put in there, the GitHub org, we do have an FAQ. This page is technically open source as well at the .github repo. But yeah, if there's any questions you think that aren't answered by that, we should definitely take care of that. And I think people are on board for using the GitHub wiki. Is that kind of where you would expect this type of thing?
I mean, I really don't mind where you would be, as long as there is a place that these things are, because a lot of people, I hope, start migrating to Wolfi. They will be coming from more or less of a place where I am, where I can build a container, but when I'm building Wolfi, do I need any tricks with some libraries and stuff like that? So if that sort of thing I'm sure I would be able to figure out by googling and stuff like that. But if you have some, basic tricks to solve, XYZ usual problems, that would be great.
No, that's fantastic feedback. So making this more accessible and understandable and a centralized location for that. Yeah, and I think we should link to that from anywhere we have content. Anyone else have anything they want to share? All right, Jason, do you have the ability and willingness to share with us something?
I have the willingness. We'll see if I have the ability. This is just going to be a sort of rambling walk through the repo. Please, raise your hands if there's any questions or anything. So this is the main Wolfi OS, Wolfi Dev OS repo. We have one of these YAML files for each package, more or less. I'm going to pick one at total random and say libping. Why not? This is a melange config. So it says this is the name of the package. This is the version. Epoch is a number that we increment. We'll talk about that in a second later. This is all sort of self-descriptive, I think.
Maybe a little bigger. Maybe a little bigger.
Oh, sure. Is that
perfect?
Better. Okay. Yeah, I think most of the copyrights these attestations are to do for now. We need to go back and go through them, but this is where it starts to get sort of interesting and into how to build. This section describes the build environment. So this is saying in order to build this, we need BusyBox to be installed, we need CA certificates, we need the build base package, we need CLib, we need Golf, etc. And we need to get them currently we get them from the Wolfi OS repository. So before this will build, before it will run the pipeline steps, it will go fetch all the APKs from the Wolfi OS repo, make sure they're signed by that key there, and then proceed with the steps. This one, I picked a pretty good one to start. That was entirely based on luck. The first step is that it will fetch this URL. There's a little bit of templating just for our own ease of use. There's a little bit of templating to say, put in this number here and then fetch this tar and make sure that it has this SHA-256. If this doesn't match, everything explodes. We don't continue. It then runs, melange is very reminiscent of GitHub Actions in this way, but you can say either runs this step, it uses BusyBox, which we have required up here, run this step, just run auto recon -vif. I don't know what that means, but I don't have to know what it means. And then we have a number of reusable pipelines defined. Autoconf configure comes from the melange repo, which is here, and pipelines autoconf, what was it called? Configure. That's the step here, and it takes an input, which defaults to here, and runs configure with these things on it. This is mainly a sort of convenience because we see this has been used a lot by a lot of packages, so we define a reusable step to run that. While I'm here, we can look at like autoconf make, which requires make and runs make. And there's a bunch of these. Fetch was actually, I already mentioned fetch. Fetch has a number of things, expected SHAs, the URI to fetch. At the end of the day, it runs wget, and then it makes sure that the SHAs match. And if it doesn't, it explodes. And then if it does, it extracts that tar file out into the current location. So going back to libpng, it does autoconf configure, make install, and then it's done. At the end of this pipeline, the libpng package is done, and it gets built into an APK with package version 1638 -R0. That's what this number means. But there are sub packages. So after it builds that, it also makes a package called libpng doc. It splits out all the man pages from the package, puts them in the right place, and now there's a separate package called libpng doc that only contains the man pages. The libpng package doesn't include man pages, so that this one can. There's also splitting out this static library, splitting out some utils. I didn't package this one, so I don't know exactly what it's doing, but you can imagine from the names what it's doing. Yeah. So at the end of the pipeline, once it's done building the main package, and then each of these sub packages, it produces a number of APKs, not just one APK, but 5 or whatever APKs, and then it's done. So let's see if we can find another one that has. Are there any questions about that that process? Lionel, the question is, does Melange support Semper for versioning? Yes, that is exactly the. Let me go back to where we were. I guess nothing in this process requires that this version means anything. Like, this is just an opaque string. If this was version ABC instead of 1638, Melange would happily build it. Wolfi would happily package it. Melange would happily build and package it, and there would be a Wolfi package with that version number. In practice, everything we're doing, I think, it has a semantic version. I wanted to go find an example of
Do we not match upstream though?
Excuse me?
Does the version not depend on the upstream?
Yeah, exactly. The libpng version we have matches the libpng version released by it.
Yeah, it depends if the project itself is Semper.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So if Josh made a package called libjosh and he was crazy and decided to, version them based on his favorite color the day he released, version would be blue, and the URI would be like, go fetch, GitHub/Josh blue.tar.gz. The string, we don't sort of interpret that string as anything, as far as I know. We just place it in the string and go fetch it. Does that help? Does that answer your question, or have I gone into way too much detail about it? Yeah. Stop trying to make fetch happen. Thank you. All right. An interesting thing that we have done recently is document how to patch CVEs, especially as they're keeping more CVEs found in software. So this is expat. I don't know what expat does. I guess it's an XML sex parser library written in C. It has no runtime dependencies. That's cool. But what we do is, where was that sec fix brought in? Oh, I'm looking for something with a patch. What I wanted to demonstrate was something with a patch. Is it going to be too meta to use the patch that has a patch? Possibly. So it turns out there were some bugs in patch which needed to itself be patched. And so we took care of that. What we do to do that is, this looks very familiar. We fetch the package from upstream, verify the SHA. There is this patch reusable step defined again in the melange repo. I could switch over here and show you the patch step. It just says for file in patches, for path in patches, patch that thing. It's very straightforward. So the upstream patch release was 276, but there are a bunch of bugs in patch apparently with associated CVEs, and we'd like to fix those. So we define a number of patches in a directory corresponding to the package name. We have this patch. It fixes this bug, whatever that bug is. I think the bug is that it used C. And so we apply that patch. We apply that patch. We apply that patch. A bunch of patches. We apply all these patches. Keep applying. And then we run auto reconf, like you said before, and configure and make install and strip. And now the package has that fix, has the fixes associated with each of these CVEs. And so we report in the package in the melange YAML this version 276 R3. 276, this is what the epoch means, R3, includes fixes for these CVEs. If another one comes out, a CVE 2022, 64,306 comes out, we would create a 276 epoch 4. We would have a patch for it down here. We would create a secfixes entry for 276 R4 with the entry for CVE 2022, whatever I said before. There's a step I've been missing when you build a release, when you build a new package, either update a version or update an epoch or add a new package. We're currently building everything with this make file, which has a line for each thing it should build. So let me find patch. You call this build patch 276 R3. This basically says run melange on patch.yaml and produce an APK called 276 R3. So if we bumped it with a sec fix with a new patch, we would also have to update that here and say -R4. We feel good about it. The question is, how are you feeling about that version of OpenSSL? We feel good about it. Am I on main? Let's see. We have a fix for 307 with fixes for these CVEs. And the make file says...
You weren't on main, but
yes.
Yeah, we are
okay.
on 307.
I thought we were, and then I thought maybe I had done something wrong. And I had done something wrong. I was not on main. But yeah, the fix for OpenSSL 307 was applied yesterday in this change. And you can see actually exactly what I was talking about before. It bumped the version, it reset the epoch to 0, it noted sec fixes in 307 for these CVEs, it updated the SHA because now we're fetching 307 instead of 305, and it updated in the make file 307 R0, and that was it. That's all we actually needed to do to package that fix and release it. Yeah, that's actually a very good view of this. I should be doing these as diffs instead of trying to walk through the changes. But yeah, this bumps to go 119.3 as a fix for the CVE, new expected SHA. This sort of maintenance, the updating of packages, is relatively easy to do. And if you want to sort of get your hands dirty and start trying some of these out, this is a good place to start. I found it to be a good place to start. It's also probably the first place you'll start to see automation taking over, because it is so readily automatable, or at least to get some of it started is readily automatable. But yeah, that's sort of a walkthrough of the repo. Have I missed anything interesting? Or the process I just described is in how to patch CVEs, with a few different ways that CVEs can be patched. One way is to say this does not affect us, has never affected us, will never affect us, and this is just to say like we don't think that this is a problem for us. But yeah, if you go through the history, you can see sort of a number of patches getting applied.
I think, first of all,
security.
this is fantastic. One of the things to note is that the old versions stay in the Wolfi repository. So even though there's certain versions listed here, the new ones will be published to a bucket. We have some automation that maybe will open source at some point, but diffs what's in the repo versus what's in the bucket and ships it out. So you can go through the history and find all the old versions, the Git history, but as far as I understand, they're all available still.
Yeah, exactly. Each of those old packages. What was an example? One go.yaml had bumped from 1.19.1 to 1.19.3. You can still go get 1.19.1 from the package repo if you want it. We don't plan to get rid of those at any point. The epoch version, I should mention this because it confused me for a while. The epoch version is there so that we can make changes to, it goes a bad example because we just reset it. So that we can make changes to the build process for 1.19.1, and that isn't a change to the version of the package. It's only a change to the our sort of packaging of that package. I don't know if that's helpful as a description. It helped me a lot when I was looking at this before.
Where does the term epoch come from?
I don't know. I think we borrowed it mainly from Alpine area. They might have more
in
context.
Alpine. It's PKGREL, but other distributions call it the epoch. Well, in RPM, the epoch is different. It's a version override. So like if you ship like OpenSSL 3 and then you're like, oh, this is no good, we need to downgrade it, then they can force the downgrade by calling it OpenSSL 1:, 1.1 or whatever. And then that'll rank higher than OpenSSL 3 without that 1: in front of it. It's in our case, it's just the specific build number of the package. We might change it, but if we do, it'll remain backwards compatible, so you can continue using epoch to describe that number, but it's not the same as an RPM.
An event or a time marked by an event that begins a new period of development. Period or development. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I can go into more detail about like maybe the current build system we have, such as it is. We use GitHub Actions for everything. I guess we'll do push staging. Right now, every time, maybe I'll start with CI. That's a good idea. Every time there's a pull request against main, we use one of these big BP Ubuntu machines. We check out the code, we set up Melange, we set up Gcloud. We generate a local signing key. The signing key isn't used for anything later. This is just to build all the packages and then throw them away to make sure that it works at CI time. We pull down all of the packages currently in the production registry and the production repo. This is just as an optimization so that we don't have to rebuild stuff that hasn't changed. So we fetch everything from the public repo locally and touch it just so that it looks new. And then we do make with the RSA signing key that we just generated. This effectively does an incremental build on everything we just changed in this PR. So you can see in actions, CI build action, these
Just
take,
a just a
20
time check.
minutes.
Yeah. Just a time
Oh,
check.
sure, yeah.
3 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just to finish that sentence, these take 20 minutes or 4 minutes or 1 minute instead of taking, 2 or 3 hours like sometimes they do in real life. I'm seeing also there's questions. How do you specify the version of a melange package within an APKO manifest? That's a good question. I can answer that now. Sorry, let's do it. This is a one that I'm just bringing up because it's the one I most recently used. This currently uses whatever the latest Node.js package is, and the latest BusyBox and the latest certificates bundle. But you could do Node.js. Forget exactly the syntax, but you could say greater than 3 or less than 4, or at a particular version, using, I think it's just general APK version pinning syntax, and then you get an image at that layer. How to distribute an APK privately for enterprise internal use, which package registries support APK. I saw you use Google Cloud Storage, but with which APK proxy? Currently, the way we are distributing APKs is we publish to cloud storage, and then a function runs and updates the APK index. The APK index is this file that just says, here's what's in this location. That is not currently open source, but I think it could make sense to be. But there is no APK proxy. APK talks to APK and APKO and things that use it. Talk to the APK index file to find files and then go fetch them from cloud storage. So everything is just served from Google Cloud Storage.
Yeah, I threw a link in the chat. So if you go to Alpine's wiki, that will explain how the repo works. So this link he has up, if you are using Go, there is some packages in here that will let you generate these indexes. Yeah, and then you could just use Melange to build your APK files, throw them into some static location, and it should just work. But yeah, we should definitely help out with this too.
Yeah, I really like the way that serving packages doesn't require anything but static storage. That's super nice. All right, great. I will promise to prepare something better next time. But
no,
I think
that was fantastic and right on time, and yeah. So I think that'll definitely, we'll get this on YouTube, and that'll help a lot for people. So yeah, we're right at time. So thank you everybody for coming to the very first Wolfi community meeting, and we will see you in 2 weeks. And look out on Twitter and all that for agenda and topics. Bye.
Bye everyone.